Okay. Hi, everyone. It's Kino here. This is day 15 of the Yoga Challenge. Yay! Congratulations for making it this far in the Yoga Challenge. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so grateful that you have committed to the spiritual practice of yoga. I love it when people practice yoga because I feel like it really makes the world a better place when you get that little bit happier from practicing yoga. You kind of spread that happiness into everyday moments in your life. Well, I'm here on the beautiful island of Anguilla, and I have a spectacular view. And I'm here to chat with you about the theme of the day for the Yoga Challenge. I've done my sitting practice, I've done my yoga practice. I had a yummy breakfast over here with a fruit plate and avocado toast and freshly squeezed juice, and now I am chatting with you. Yay! So, the theme of the challenge today is the concept of mindfulness. I'm sure you've heard about mindfulness before. Mindfulness seems to be kind of like the new catchphrase of the wellness industry. But what you might not know is that mindfulness is actually rooted in an ancient spiritual practice that was first taught by the Buddha. Now, mindfulness was first translated into English from the ancient language of Pali, which was spoken in the time of the Buddha, from this word called sati. Now, if you watch the Day on Awareness, you'll know that one of the other translations of sati is also awareness. Well, when we think about mindfulness, the mindful state of awareness, the first thing to understand is that mindfulness is not judgment. Judgment, or our perception, which is associated with our value judgments, is not the state of mindfulness. That's the state of sort of individual perception, our personal reality based on our past experiences. Mindfulness is a pure field of presence, which is not clouded by our personal preferences, free from the world of like and dislike, free from kind of the patterns that we've accumulated in the past. Mindfulness is a state of pure, open awareness that simply sees what is and rests in the quality of what you could call the isness of the moment, the isness of the moment, the way what is simply is. First, in every circumstance that you find yourself in, there is the purity of the experience. And then second, there's the story that we tell around the experience. And then these two often get clouded and kind of lumped together as truth. But in actuality, these are two separate experiences. Well, mindfulness seeks to help your mind identify with the vast open field of pure perception, where what is simply is, rather than where what is blurred together with how you perceive it and the story you tell around it. In other words, there's reality, and then there's the story you tell around reality. And the practice of mindfulness seeks to help you insert space in between these two things, these two experiences. There's a wonderful book and teaching by a man named Viktor Frankl. He's a Holocaust survivor who's also a psychologist and wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And one of the most important discoveries that he found and wrote about in this book, Man's Search for Meaning, is that there is a space between a stimulus and a response. So, in other words, there's stimulus happening all around you. This video and my talk is a stimulus for you. You're being stimulated right now through the visual and auditory channels of interaction. You're watching me and you're listening to me. That's impacting you in some way. So that is an external stimulus. I'm sitting here, and the light that's coming in is a pretty intense stimulus, as well as the color of the sky and the texture of the air. Moment to moment, you're constantly bombarded by stimuli, which surround you from the external world. So this is stimulus, constantly, never ending. This is the pure fact of being embodied here on planet Earth, as we're constantly being bombarded with various sorts of stimuli. Now, there's a response. How you respond. Your response to that stimulus, positive, negative, maybe, and I hope you already did, found that the stimulus I'm providing to you is quite positive, and you already liked and commented on this video and said that it was really awesome. Of course, right? That's what I want anyway. Just joking, But anyhow, please also do like and comment on the video. So we have stimulus, we have response. Unfortunately, more often than not, the response is automated and rooted in the past. And more often than not, unfortunately, the response is also negative. We have this habit pattern of complaint, we have this habit pattern of depression, of learned helplessness, of anxiety, of worry, and all the other kind of problematic negative states of the mind. So what Viktor Frankl found was that there is freedom that lies in the space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you can choose a new course of action that is not rooted in the past and is potentially rooted in a type of future that you would like to create and participate in. Now, when we think about that, if we take that all the way back to mindfulness and this open field of awareness, then mindfulness rests in the space between stimulus and response. It's opening up that space and giving you access to it in a way that when the habit pattern of the mind is simply perpetuating itself and restarting that cycle rooted in the past, what you could call rehashing the past, bringing it into the future, making the future look just like the past and creating this big karmic cycle, the samskaras, which are rooted in the past, the Sanskrit word which means behavioral patterns, past reactions rooted in the past, aggregated together to create these larger patterns of behavior. These are all of our habituated responses to the world. What we want to do in the cultivation of mindfulness is insert space between stimulus and response, and then occupy that space, learn to live in that space, and not identify with the momentum of responses which keep coming and coming and coming, all rooted in the past, all based on the inertia of the people that we've always been and always known, our whole history of human civilization. What we're here to do on the spiritual path of yoga is to be free, to find true and ultimate freedom. Freedom lies in the space between stimulus and response. These are the words and teaching of Viktor Frankl, and also one of the core foundational teachings of mindfulness. Now let's talk about what it actually means to be mindful of something. We suffer in our contemporary day and age from what you could call the disease of the distracted mind. Constantly, never-ending stimuli which arrive in the form of social media, of sound bites and news bites, have shrunk our attention span so that we're constantly orienting next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing, so that we actually are not mindful of anything. We're just hankering after a new experience constantly moment to moment. Mindfulness is totally aware, so that your field of attention and the object of your attention are able to sustain in a sort of unity. And that unity is, of course, ideally free from the estimations, the value estimations about perception. So when we think about the state of mindfulness, what we're thinking about is an unbroken, completely aware, open field of attention being held at a single point. It's very similar to concentration, but in a deeper sense, mindfulness is more than just attentiveness. Because attentiveness, you can be very, very attentive at something. You can have your whole attention focused on something and not be mindful of it. You can be controlling, you can be, too stuck in the minutiae of the detail. You can be obsessing about something, inspecting something, be very, very attentive. But mindfulness is so that the open field of the mind, the pure awareness, remains full and is kind of empty at the same time, full of the experience, empty of the value judgment. And this is the way that mindfulness can truly be transformative, both in a meditative sense and also in your life. For example, if you're able to enter into a conversation and simply be mindful of how your body is feeling, how your breath is feeling, rather than engaging in that endless cycle of commentary, which seems to just be on perpetual cycle in the mind, placing value judgments. I like this, I don't like that, I like how she's talking, I don't like how she's talking, I wish I were a little bit cooler, I wish it were warmer, I wish I had more clothes, I wish I had more money, whatever's going on inside the mind. If you can just dissociate from that a little bit and just turn that down to a degree, so that then you can eventually open up that field of mindful presence, then this is the act that we engage in the spiritual practice of mindfulness. In your yoga practice, we begin to be mindful, letting your mind be fully aware of the sensations in the body without any judgment. You begin to be fully aware of the breath, again, without any judgment. And even the contents of your mind and your emotions, you become mindful of. So you become aware of what you're thinking and how you're feeling. And in that space, you can begin to develop freedom. Freedom from the cycles of the past. Freedom from the chains of the mind, you could say, the chains of the habit patterns of the mind. Well, there is a way that you can think about how quickly we start to tell a story about reality and how that story can really cloud our judgment. Spiritual Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield tells a story about how in a meditation retreat there was a man who was meditating, a student who was meditating, and this student experienced really, really intense pain while he was meditating, and then immediately associated that pain with anger that he felt towards his father. So he went up to his meditation teacher and he said, "Hey, I've really discovered something. I was meditating today and this intense pain came up in my neck, and I figured out that all the tension in my life is because I'm mad at my father." And then, his meditation teacher just kind of mirrored back to him, "So what you said to me is that you became mindful of a pain in your neck." And he said, "Yeah." And the student said, "Yeah, then that told me that, I was really mad at my dad, and that was the source of all of my suffering." And the teacher then just mirrored back in a mindful sort of blank mirror state. "So what you're saying is that you had a pain in your neck that arose during the practice." And the student again, "Yes, exactly. And that's the source of all my suffering and all my stress and da-da-da-da." So these two, sort of the teacher and the student, mindful awareness, free of value judgment, story that you're telling about reality, which may or may not be true. You don't know. To conflate those two is sort of eliminate the space between stimulus and response, and to live in the world of created meaning instead of to live in the world of pure mindful awareness. Imagine who you would be if you were free from all your value judgments. Imagine if the burden of habit was lifted from your heart and you could be truly spontaneous and mindful in every moment. Because you'd be so free. You would talk to people that maybe you had previously identified as your enemies, and you would be able to be open-hearted towards them. You could be open-hearted towards yourself. You could forgive yourself for all those mistakes that we've all made in the past, and then learn to live new and fresh and alive moment by moment. So I encourage you to integrate mindfulness, awareness in your yoga practice and in every moment of your life, setting yourself free from the chains of the past and opening your heart to the experience of pure presence. Now we'll have a few moments of mindful awareness. So if you'll close your eyes and come to any comfortable position. Bring your attention to the quality of your breath, the neutral object, the resting point of the breath. Notice how you're breathing, and just notice. Don't tell any story about whether the breath is good or bad. Just be aware, I'm breathing. In as you breathe in, out as you breathe out. Whether breath is deep or shallow, warm or cool, let it be exactly as it is. And just be aware, be mindful of the breath. Then notice your body. Check in with the body. How does your body feel? Warm or cool, energized, tired, tight, flexible, healthy, unhealthy, sick, or well. Just check in with the body, neutral, non-reacting, observe. Check in with the quality now of your mind and your emotions, what you're thinking, the quality and texture of your thoughts, and how you're feeling, the quality and texture of your emotions, happy, sad, busy mind, peaceful mind, angry, forgiving, anxious, faithful, open-hearted, grateful, or bitter and annoyed. It matters not what you feel or what you're thinking, as long as for now you're simply aware. Being aware of the quality of the mind, quality of the emotions, being aware of the quality of the physical body, being aware of the quality of the breath, all the while practicing the state of mindful, open awareness. Expanding the space between stimulus and response, finding true freedom there. And then allow yourself a deeper breath, being mindful of the breath as it moves into the body. Mindful of the breath as it moves out of the body, and softly open the eyes. Notice the small subtle shifts in how you feel. Perhaps there's a feeling of more peace, almost like the mind drops down a little bit, the heart softens. And these are some of the benefits of practicing mindfulness. If if you want to join me for the full-length yoga practice where I integrate this concept of mindfulness in the yoga practice, remember to sign up for the Yoga is Challenge on omstars.com. You get a free month of practice and access to this yoga challenge as well as over 2,000 lifestyle and yoga classes with me and with our amazing team of teachers. And then you'll have the tools to support your practice every day. Remember that the practice of mindfulness can be done anywhere, whether on the mat or in your everyday moment of your life. And if you begin to really set your mind in the space between the stimulus of the external world and your habituated response, you'll find more and more freedom. Keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Namaste.